22 West 135th Street in Harlem. The subject of our interview today is a discussion of the new Malcolm X, if there is such an animal. And I'd like to start right in talking with Malcolm about his physical appearance.
When he asks the question, is there a new Malcolm X? Because what he's demanding is for there to be a new me, while there's not yet been a new him, which means I'm supposed to change before white people change. As long as there's an old problem, the same old problem, I don't see how there can be a new Malcolm X or a new any other kind of black man.
Well, haven't you said things recently that you weren't saying in the past about white people? You're not calling them all devils anymore?
Well, if you notice, I never did say that the white man was the devil. I always said Mr. Muhammad says the white man is the devil. And one thing, you can take every speech or lecture that I've ever made, and I've never made an independent statement on my own at any time. I quoted Muhammad.
Does that mean that you were not yourself at the time? Or?
Well, I believed in Elijah Muhammad 100%. And I also believed in his teachings. And I represented it in that sense and in that capacity. And when Elijah Muhammad taught that the white race was a race of devils, that heaven was on earth, that heaven was in Mecca in Arabia, and that because the white race was a race of devils, none of them could enter the holy city of Mecca in Arabia. So that when I went to Mecca and saw so many white people there, and the white people that I saw there were practicing brotherhood and living their religion very, very religiously, I immediately began to reevaluate what Elijah Muhammad had said about Mecca and about the religion of Islam and about the white race in general.
Well, was that the first evidence that Mr. Muhammad was not telling you everything you think he should have been telling you?
Well, when different things in his own personal life that cast question as to his integrity as a man, much less as a messenger of God or a man of God, was the initial thing, you know, that started me to questioning him.
Do you think it's wise to make statements like that?
Like what?
Questioning his personal life? I mean, don't you think that he might retaliate in some way?
Well, if he's a man of God, he won't retaliate. If he's the man of God that he has taught us he is, there'll be no retaliation.
Haven't there been trouble recently? I understood that you spoke at the Wire recently, and he sent some people up to visit you.
Well, I spoke.
Did you notice any of his people around?
I saw many, but they seemed to be listening to what I was saying.
Was there any trouble?
I don't know if they came for trouble. I thought they listened quite attentively to what I was saying, and I think many of them learned something.
Have you pulled many of his followers away into your organization?
Not purposely. Many of his followers have left him, but they left him after finding out what was going on.
I see. What about your beard? I noticed that's a new thing with you. What does that mean? Is it a symbol of anything?
It has no particular meaning other than that it probably reflects the change that I've undergone and am still undergoing.
And will you shave it off one day?
Certainly. I might leave it on forever, or I might shave it off in the morning. I'm not dogmatic about anything. I don't intend to get in any more straitjackets.
What do you mean any more straight?
I don't intend to let anybody make my mind become so set on anything that I can't change it according to the circumstances and conditions that I happen to find myself in.
You formed a group called the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, is that right? What is the main difference between that group and Mr. Muhammad's group?
Well, trying to learn and practice the religion of Islam as it's practiced in the holy city of Mecca and in the Muslim world. And the Muslim Mosque Incorporated doesn't teach that the white race is a race of devils. It teaches the brotherhood of man in the same way that the religion of Islam teaches the brotherhood of man. And the Muslim Mosque Incorporated fights against racism in all forms. We're against racism, segregation. We're against anything that's designed to alter or curtail the freedom of human beings. Plus, the Muslim Mosque Incorporated differs in this sense too, in that it has been accepted by and endorsed by and is supported by all of the official religious bodies in the Muslim world, whereas the black Muslim movement is condemned by the official religious bodies in the Muslim world.
You've been traveling a good deal recently. Can you tell me a little bit about your experiences relative to where you've been?
Well, I was in Cairo, in Mecca, Arabia, in Kuwait, in Beirut, Lebanon, Khartoum, Sudan, Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, Nairobi in Kenya, Zanzibar, Dar es Salaam in what is now Tanzania, and Lagos, Nigeria, Accra in Ghana, Monrovia in Liberia, and Conakry in Guinea, and Algiers in Algeria. And during my tour of those various cities or countries, I spent an hour and a half with President Nasser in Egypt. I spent 3 hours with President Nyeri, President of Tanganyika or Tanzania. I spent several days with Jomo Kenyatta, and in fact I flew with Jomo Kenyatta and Prime Minister Milton Obote of Uganda from Tanganyika, from Dar es Salaam to Kenya. I saw Azikwe, and I had an audience with Azikwe, President Azikwe, also with President Nkrumah, and I lived 3 days in Sekou Touré's house in Conakry. And I cite this to show that everywhere I went, I found people at all levels of government and out of government, with open minds, open hearts, and open doors.
I see. How long was the trip?
I was away almost 5 months.
And do you think you've learned very much?
Oh yes, I've learned a great deal, because in each country that I visited, I spoke with people at all levels. I had an open mind. I spoke with heads of state, I spoke with their ministers, I spoke with cabinet members, I spoke with kings. I was the guest of state again when I revisited Saudi Arabia. I spoke with members of King Faisal's family. I don't know how many foreign ministers I spoke with in the Middle East and in Africa, and all of them discussed our problems quite freely.
The Negro's problem in America?
Oh yes, yes.
Did they seem to know much about it?
Oh yes, not only did they seem to know much about it, but they were very sympathetic with it. In fact, it's not an accident that in the United Nations, during the debate on the Congo problem in the Security Council, that almost every one of the African foreign ministers tied in what was happening in the Congo with what's happening in Mississippi.
Do you think this changes the minds of any Mississippians here in this country?
Well, the Mississippian, it's not a case of changing the mind of the Mississippian as much as it's a case of changing the mind of the Americans. The problem is not a Mississippi problem, it's an American problem.
Do you think that it's getting any better, the situation?
No, it'll never get any better until our people in this country learn how to speak the same language that the racists speak. If a man speaks French, you can't talk to him in German. In order to communicate, you have to use the same language he's familiar with. And the language of the racists in the South is the language of violence. It's the language of brutality and power and retaliation.
You think this is what the Negro should subscribe to?
The Negro should, if he's going to communicate, he has to subscribe to whatever language the people use that he's trying to communicate with. And when you're dealing with racists, they only know one language. And if you're not capable of adopting that language or speaking that language, you don't need to try and communicate with those racists.
Well, Dr. Martin Luther King the other night was honored in Harlem after receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. And he said, if I can quote him, if blood must flow in the street, brothers, let it be ours.
I was sitting in the audience. I heard him say that.
What do you think of that statement?
I think if there's going to be any flowing of blood, it should be reciprocal. Reciprocal. It should flow. The flow of blood should be two ways. Black people shouldn't be willing to bleed unless white people are willing to bleed. And black people shouldn't be willing to be nonviolent unless white people are going to be nonviolent.
Well, do you think the majority of Americans are nonviolent?
No. If the majority of Americans were nonviolent, America couldn't continue to exist as a country. Is America nonviolent in the Congo, or is she nonviolent in South Vietnam? You can't point to a place where America is nonviolent. The only people that they want to be nonviolent are American Negroes. We're supposed to be nonviolent. When the world becomes nonviolent, I'll become nonviolent. When a white man becomes nonviolent, I'll become nonviolent.
I heard talk recently about Negroes getting money together and hiring a mafia to take care of some of the murderers.
We don't need to hire a mafia, but units should be trained from among our people who know how to speak the language of the Klan and the Citizens Council. And at any time, any Ku Klux Klan inflicts any kind of brutality against any Negroes, we should be in a position to strike back. We should not go out and initiate violence against whites indiscriminately. But we should absolutely be in a position to retaliate against the Ku Klux Klan and the White Citizens Council, especially since the government seems to be incapable or unwilling to curtail the activity of the Klan.
Well, do you think in terms of numbers the Negroes would stand a chance?
Oh, yes. I don't even think in terms of the Negroes aren't the minority like they keep trying to tell us we are. When you think of yourself within the American context, then we're a minority. But when we think of ourselves in the world context, we're not a minority. And when the Negro becomes more worldly and more international in his thinking, he'll find that we're not the underdog.
Aren't we the underdog in this country?
The country, this no longer is a Negro problem, and no longer is it an American problem. It has become a world problem. And this is what I meant when I said that the tone and the language of these African foreign ministers in the United Nations are showing they don't look upon it as a Negro problem anymore. It's a world problem. And in that context, we're not the underdog. And you read today's New York Tribune, where the Algerian representative outright pointed out that how can Adlai Stevenson sitting there and talk about the Congo and all its justice and humanitarianism and all of that, and they just turned 21 assassins loose in Mississippi.
Can you tell me a little bit about your new program, if you have a new program?
We're not unveiling our new program until in January. But I will say this, that the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which I'm the chairman of, intends to work with any group that's trying to bring about maximum registration of Negroes in this country. But we will not encourage Negroes to become registered as Democrats or Republicans. We feel that the Negro should be an independent, so that he can throw his weight either way. He should be non-aligned. His political philosophy should be the same as that of the African. The absolute neutrality or non-alignment. And when the African makes a move, his move is designed to benefit Africa. And when the Negro makes a move, our move should be designed to benefit us, not the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or some of these machines. So our program is to make our people become involved in the mainstream of the political structure of this country, but not politically naive. We think that we should be educated in the science of politics so that we understand the very workings of it, what it should produce, and who is responsible when that which we're looking for doesn't materialize.
Isn't it a new side of you? When you were with the Black Muslims, you didn't involve yourself in politics at all.
Well, the Black Muslim movement has nothing within its mechanism that's designed to deal with things on this earth right now. Most of the Black Muslim movement's objectives are similar to that of the church. Only the difference being the church says that you're going to die and go to the promised land. And in the Black Muslims, I was taught when we get to the promised land when God comes and takes us there. Nobody knows where this land is. No hint of it is ever given. So this is the same as the church. I believe in the promised land, and I believe in God, but I believe that we should start doing something toward trying to get to it right now. And if God wants to get into the act, good. And if he's not ready yet, we at least won't be sitting around here waiting.
How much religion do you teach your followers today?
Well, as I say, I'm also a Muslim. And we have the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, which is religious.
Yeah.
But we keep our religion in the mosque. All of our religious services are held in the mosque. Our religious lectures are done in the mosque. But when we leave the mosque, we don't bring our religion into the Organization of Afro-American Unity because that would create disunity.
I see.
Because there are Negroes there who are Christians.
Well, how is your new organization progressing? Do you think that it's meeting your time schedule if you have one?
No organization meets any time schedule. Nothing on earth meets the time schedule. So we don't feel disadvantaged or dispirited by our failure to keep up with our time schedule. The time schedule was yesterday. No time schedule will put us on time. We're already behind time when we get started. But we do feel that we're getting the support of our people, both in the religious direction and also in the OAAU direction.
Are you getting new members?
Oh, yes.
In your organization?
Oh, yes.
All the time?
All the time.
Do you say one thing in New York, another thing in Chicago, or do you think you speak in national language?
No, I say one thing in New York and another thing in Chicago. I say one thing in Harlem and another thing downtown. Because you're dealing with two different people.
Do you tell people what they want to hear, essentially?
I don't tell them what I tell them I tell them what I got on my mind to tell them whether they like it or not. And I think that most people would have to agree. I don't think anybody could ever accuse me of telling people just what they want to hear. Because most of them don't want to hear what I'm talking about, especially white people.
I was at a party the other night talking with a young man, and he said that, I asked him what he liked most about you, and he said he liked your manness. Your manness. And he said that you were the only Negro leader in America that he's ever heard of or read about who didn't ask for permission to say things and to do things. Do you like this attribute?
I have never looked at it that way, but I know that if I think something is the truth, I'm going to say it. And if I think it's the truth, I'm going to say it, whether someone likes it or not.
Do you think in terms of separation anymore?
No. No, because Elijah Muhammad himself doesn't believe in separation. As long as I thought he did, and I believed in him too, well, I believed in that. But I think that whole thing is just used as a gimmick to get people.
Do you think the Negro can succeed in America through the vote?
Well, independence comes only by two ways, by ballots or bullets. What you read historically, you'll find that everyone who gets freedom, they get it through ballots or bullets. Now, naturally, everyone prefers ballots, and even I prefer ballots, but I don't discount bullets. I mean, I'm not interested in either ballots or bullets. I'm interested in freedom. So, and I'm not interested in the means, I'm interested in the objective. So, I believe that black people should get free by ballots or bullets. If we can't get ballots, if we can't use ballots to get free, we should use bullets. Yes, I believe that black people should be just as quick to use bullets as to ballots. Because if the white man is not giving us anything. It's not something that is his to give, you know. He's not doing us a favor when he permits us a few liberties. So, I don't think we should approach it like that. I don't think we should approach our battle like we're battling a friend. We're battling an enemy. Anybody who stands in the way of the black man being free is an enemy of the black man and should be dealt with as an enemy.
Would you say there's some black men among that group?
Oh yeah. A lot of black people are in that group, but they're not independent. They're puppets. You don't worry about the puppet. You worry about the puppeteer. Like Shambi is a puppet, American puppet.
You want to relate what kind of following you have in terms of size or intellect or dedication?
Well, they're dedicated. It's impossible for anybody to get involved with anybody like I am and not be dedicated. You know, this is true. Nobody would even take the time or the risk to be identified with the type of image that's been projected if they weren't dedicated.
Do you think that a truce, if I can use that word, between you and Elijah Muhammad could be established so that you would not harass him and he would not harass you?
I don't harass him. I function as if he doesn't exist. How are you? I'm not interested in entering into any arguments or discussions with small people about small things.
At the Martin Luther King,
you imagine, I read something, this is the only time I've ever answered this, and I just want to say this. I read where they were supposed to have sent out a telegram telling me that for maligning Elijah Muhammad, my life would be in danger. You know, here's an organization that spends its whole newspaper, 7 pages, telling lies about me, and has the audacity to say, if I say anything, why they're out of their mind.
Do you take the threats lightly?
I don't take anything lightly. I don't take life lightly. But I never worry about dying. I don't see how a Negro can start worrying about dying at this late day. But I think Negro organizations that talk about killing other Negroes should first go and practice some of that killing skill on the Ku Klux Klan and White Citizens Council. Don't you have any faith in the FBI or in J. Edgar Hoover? I don't even have any faith in the president. I don't think the burden should be upon the FBI or J. Edgar Hoover. It's on the president. I don't have any faith in the president. I think the president is just as in the same category with Hoover.
What category is that?
The category that he placed himself in when he attacked the Nobel Peace Prize-winning nonviolence advocator, Martin Luther King.
What do you think of Dr. King?
He's a man. He's a human being that is trying to keep Negroes from exploding, so white folks won't have too much to worry about.
Would you say he's getting in the way of Negro progress?
Of Negro what?
Progress?
Well, the Negro will never progress nonviolently.
Well, what were your thoughts when King was receiving the awards last week?
Well, to me, it represented the fact that the struggle of the Negro in this country endorsed at the international level, and it was looked upon as a problem that affects the peace of the world, and it was looked upon as a human problem, or a problem for humanity, rather than just a Mississippi problem or an American problem. To me, King getting that Nobel Peace Prize, it wasn't King getting it. It was the fact, it represented the awareness on the part of the world that the race problem in America could upset the peace of the world. And this is true. Now, if King can get, so I don't think that King got the prize because he had solved our people's problem. But we still got the problem. He got the Peace Prize, but we got the problem. So I don't think he could have gotten the medal for that. On the other hand, if Negroes can get it non-violently, good.
Are you in favor of that?
I say, okay. I'm not in favor of anything that doesn't get the solution. But if Negroes can get freedom non-violently, good. But that's a dream. Even King calls it a dream. But I don't go for no dream. And the only way you can think Negroes can get it non-violently is dream. But when you get out and start facing the reality of it, Negroes are the victims of violence every day. So I'd rather get violent, right along with the white man.
Have you ever received an award of any kind for your work?
No. Yeah, I received awards whenever I walk the street, and people, whenever I walk the street and I see people ready to get with it, that's my reward. Whenever people come out, they know in advance what I'm going to talk about, and if they show any sign of interest in it or agreement with it, that's my reward. And when they show that they're fed up with this slow pace, that's my reward.
When King received his medal, did you sort of wish that it was yours, or did you?
I don't want the white man giving me medals. If I'm following a general, he's leading me into battle, and the enemy begins to give him rewards or awards, I get suspicious of him. Especially if he gets the peace award before the war is over.
Some people consider that you're a dangerous man. What do you think about that?
Dangerous to what? To whom and to what?
That you might advocate violence, that you might precipitate violence.
Precipitate? How are you going to precipitate violence? The Negroes are getting murdered every day.
Well, some people feel that you might retaliate.
Well, they feel right. I believe that Negroes should have retaliated a long time ago. I think that the Negro shows signs of abnormality. As long as he doesn't fight back, he's abnormal. He's not a full-fledged human being.
Well, I don't like to keep talking about King, but he says that we should fight, Negroes should fight hatred with a weapon of love. Do you think that's possible or practical?
No. Negro's been loving the white man for 400 years, and he hates us now as much as he did when he started. We see nothing in him and his behavior toward us but hate. You can't fight hate with love. You can't fight. Why don't they fight Russia with love? Fight Cuba with love? Why don't they fight China with love? I mean, if it's going to work. If it's such a weapon, they need to send King to Korea and South Vietnam.
Do you think the press has been fair to you recently?
No. Pardon me?
Do you think the press has been fair to you in recent months?
Well, I read in the New York Times the other day that because I had said that American Negroes need a Mau Mau, this contradicted what I said from Mecca when I claimed to believe in the brotherhood of man. This is shrewd press manipulating. What I said didn't contradict. When I said I believe in the brotherhood of man, I still believe in the brotherhood of man. When I said I believe in the Mau Mau, I still believe in the Mau Mau. The Mau Mau is an organization that was dedicated to bringing about independence for the people of Kenya. They were a brotherhood in themselves, and they believed in brotherhood. And I believe that in the brotherhood of man, but I also believe that our people need organizations that will fight against those who fight against us. This is no contradiction of brotherhood.
Do you think the Negro has a positive future in the U.S.?
No. Well, how positive is the U.S. future? The U.S. doesn't seem to have too positive a future itself. How can you have a positive future inside a system that doesn't have a positive future itself?
You don't propose that Negroes leave the U.S.?
I propose that we have the right to do whatever is necessary to bring about an answer to our problem. And whatever is necessary. If it's necessary to leave to get a solution, then we should leave. If we can get a solution staying here, then we should stay. The main thing we want is a solution.
Here's a question way off in another direction. Have you ever considered becoming or had you as a youth, becoming a lawyer or a doctor or a minister or a fireman?
Back when I was a youth, they didn't have too many Negro doctors or lawyers, especially where I grew up. And they didn't even have any Negro firemen when I was a youth. When I was a youth, the only thing you could dream about becoming was a good waiter or a good busboy or a good shoeshine man. I mean, that's the American dream. That's when I was a youth. That's the way it was. And I didn't grow up in Mississippi either. I grew up in Michigan.
Well, do you think things have changed very much since you grew up?
They've changed in this sense. If you're a butler for a poor white man, you're a butler. And you live but so well, you eat but so well. But if your master becomes rich, you begin to eat better and begin to live better. But you're still a butler. And the only change in this society, we occupied a menial position 20 years ago. Our position hasn't changed. Our condition has changed somewhat, but our position hasn't changed. And the change that has been brought about has been only to the extent that this country has changed. The white man got richer, we living a little better. He got more power, we got a little more power. But we're still at the same level in his system. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
Our position has never changed.
The ratio has remained the same.
Certainly. If you sit at the back of the plane when it's going 100 miles an hour, you're on the back of the plane. Well, it can start going 1,000 miles an hour. You're going faster, but you're still at the back of the plane. And that's the same way with the Negro in this society. We started out in the rear, and we're still in the rear. The society is going faster, but we're still in the rear. And we think we're making progress because they've made progress.
Why do you stay in America? Wouldn't it be easier for you to...
I was offered some good positions in several countries that I visited. Good positions that would solve my problem as an individual forever, but it would not solve the problem of our people. And I feel pretty much responsible for much of the action and energy that has been stirred up among our people for rights and for freedom. And I think I'd be wrong to stir it up and then run away from it myself.
Well, if you didn't live here, where would you like to live? What do you think would be the best country for you?
There are several countries on the African continent that are so beautiful. They're like paradise. Several countries. Many, not several countries. The whole continent is beautiful. And but there are several countries over there in particular that just knock me out.
What would one of them be, or two of them?
Well, I wouldn't specify any one, but several.
If you had your life to live over again, would you change anything that you've done?
That I've done? I don't think there's anybody who, if he had the power to live his life over, wouldn't change something that he's done.
Well, can you think of something you might, relative to your movement, to your cause, for freedom to the Negro?
It'd be difficult for me to say.
Well, you think you're going to have to leave your home in Long Island next month?
Well, there's, actually it's mine.
Why is it yours?
Well, it was mine from the start. Absolutely. Elijah Muhammad knows that. This is another thing that made me see him as he really is. And also see even the officials of the Muslim movement as they really are. Because all of them know who the house belongs. And if I had been trying to use the movement to my advantage, I wouldn't have been living in a house which is a 5-room house actually. I would have been as they are, or as he. He lives in a $150,000 house in Phoenix and got another 18-room house in Chicago, in which he told me to my face I helped him buy.
And now he's trying to take yours away.
Yeah, and mine isn't worth but about $15,000. But I mean, all that's to be expected. It doesn't excite me. In a way, I'm glad because it awakens me, to the realities of life and the frailties of human beings, especially those who claim to be divine.
Do you feel that your new movement is bigger than you are?
Any movement is bigger than an individual. Anytime you get a movement that's smaller than the individual, it's a failure from the start.
Well, are you training anybody as an understudy?
Yes. Everybody is understudy. When you train people to think, if you don't do anything that stops people from thinking, they're automatically getting in a position to take. I think he wants to ask you something. Oh.
Do you expect further riots next year?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. I expected even. The miracle of 1964 was the degree of restraint that Negroes had displayed in Harlem. The miracle of 1964 was the ability of the Negroes to restrain themselves and contain themselves, because there's no place where Negroes are more equipped and capable of retaliation than right here in Harlem.
Do you think the Negro is still sleeping, the average Negro in America?
No, the average Negro in Harlem is not asleep. And he's awake, and he's doing a lot of thinking. I think more so than any place else. But Negroes, by and large, everywhere are thinking.
Can you give me a capsule opinion on some of the following people, if you care to? Adam Clayton Powell. What do you think of him?
Powell is actually the most independent black politician in America. He's in a better position to do more for black people than any other politician.
Is he doing it?
And the reason he's in that position is because he's in an area where people support him. They support him, whereas many other Negro politicians don't get that type of support. People in Harlem are just independent-minded. They would go for a black man whether the machine liked it or not. So Powell is in a tremendous position. And with his position also goes responsibility. And I think he should see his responsibilities with the same clarity that he sees his powerful position.
What about Roy Wilkins?
Well, I heard Roy at the rally the other night say that he was 3/4 or 1/4 Scandinavian, and he seemed to be lost in that Scandinavian dream somewhat that night.
Martin Luther King, well, we've talked about him.
Well, every time I hear Martin, he says he's got a dream. And I think that the Negro leaders have to come out of the clouds and wake up and stop dreaming and start facing reality.
Do you ever think of Whitney Young?
Whitney seems to be more down to earth, but he doesn't spend enough time around Negroes. He seems to be down to earth. He's a young man, for one thing, but not enough Negroes know him. When I say he needs to be around Negroes, not enough Negroes know Whitney Young. Whitney Young could walk around Harlem all day long, and probably 5 people wouldn't even know who he was. Yet he's supposed to be one of our leaders. So he should make himself more known to those who are following him.
Well, where are you headed now? Where do you think your future lies?
I think one of the most sincere of those big six is James Farmer. You missed asking me about him.
Yeah, I did.
But I think James Farmer seems sincere. And I get the impression when I watch Farmer that he could be another Mandela. Mandela, was a man who advocated nonviolence in South Africa until he saw that it wasn't getting anywhere. And then Mandela stepped up and had to resort to tactical violence, which showed that Mandela really was for the freedom of his people. He was more interested in the end than he was the means, whereas many of the Negro leaders are more straitjacketed by the means rather than by the end.
Well, where are you headed? What do you think your future is?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm for freedom. I can capsulize how I feel. I'm for the freedom of the 22 million Afro-Americans by any means necessary. By any means necessary. I'm for freedom. I'm for a society in which our people are recognized and respected as human beings, and I believe we have the right to resort to any means necessary to bring that about. So when you ask me where I'm headed, how can I say? I'm headed in any direction that will bring us some immediate results. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's what I'm for too. It's true.
Any means necessary.
I won't give you another 5 minutes. Do you think, I think it's going to take a tremendous public relations job to change your image. And you may not be interested in changing your image, but everybody else is. I agree with a lot that you say, but I don't see how people can sign up with you.
They don't need to sign up. The most effective part of the tree are the roots. And they're signed up with the tree, but you don't ever see them. They're always beneath the ground. And the reason that you never see me worrying about my image is that image puts me in a better position than it puts anybody else in. Because I'm able to walk through the street or any place else and really find out where people are at in a silent sort of way. I know where they are in a silent sort of way. And I think that the sympathies are deeply rooted. Many of them, plus also it puts me in a position wherever I go, people know where I stand in advance. And doors that would normally be closed to American Negroes, I don't find them closed to me. Anywhere. Doesn't make a difference. Anywhere.
So you're saying that because of your outspokenness, your honesty,
people know where I stand. They know where I stand. And you see, I'm not standing in an unjust position. This is the thing. Whatever I say, I'm justified. If I said that Negroes should get out of here right tomorrow and go to war, I'm justified. Really, it may sound extreme, but you can't say that they wouldn't be justified. If I said right now that we should go down and shoot 15 Ku Klux Klansmen in the morning, you may say, well, that's extreme, but you can't say I'm not justified. This is what I mean. I think that the stand that I'm taking is justified. Many others might not take it.
Louis Lomax wrote a book a while back called When the Word is Given.
Yeah.
Can we still look forward to that word?
Where's Louis Lomax? I haven't seen Louis in a long time. I think he wrote the book and then moved out on the West Coast somewhere.
Well, what I've tried to do is to find out if there was a new Malcolm X.
There is a new one in the sense that perhaps in approach, and my travels have broadened my scope, but it hasn't changed me. I can get along with white people who can get along with me, but you don't see me trying to get along with any white man who doesn't want to get along with me. I don't believe in that. You got to get another religion.
Will you continue? Some people have said in the past that you have rid dope from the bodies of a lot of black people in Harlem. Is that true, first of all?
I think they rid dope from themselves. If you give people something to hang on to, they'll cure themselves. They get the incentive to cure themselves. And when you give them an image of themselves that's positive, then they'll try and live a positive life. If you give them an image of themselves that's negative, then they'll fall victim to all these negative things.
Do you think the city has failed to give the Negro something positive?
Oh, yeah. The city, the state, and the country itself has failed.
Do you think dope addiction could be cleaned up?
Oh, yes. Yes.
What do you think it would take? Money or?
Both.
Money and?
Teaching.
Teaching.
Yeah. I need some coffee.
You like coffee?
Takes all of that, yeah. It takes the Negro has to see himself, a new image of himself. In fact, whenever a person resorts to dope, they're seeking an escape. They're trying to go into another world because this world has failed them. And since they don't know how to do it in a real way, they resort to these artificial means of escape. They turn to whiskey, some turn to whiskey. Some turn to fighting, you know. Some turn to crime. And then others well, they turn to different things.
Well, do you think the Negro, if it's true, uses more dope because he has more problems?
It does. Even if it's true. Take your highest, in New York City, I forget what the percentage of America's dope addicts live right here in New York City, but it's really
60, 70.
Oh, yes. And then find out where in New York City do they live. Or what percentage of drug addicts in New York City are white? Probably 5%. The rest of them are black, young people. And this is, the society makes us a drug addict. The society. It's the society that makes Negroes turn to these things. You can't blame the Negro. He's not a criminal. He's the criminal is the society. When you find a Negro who has turned to crime, his turn to crime is the reaction. He doesn't turn to crime because he's a criminal. He turns to crime as a reaction to the criminal society. The society is criminal. It will force you to steal in order to live. It forces you to take drugs in order to escape their oppressive, the psychological pressures that are put on you. No.
Hello. How was your trip?
Very good.
Good.
Good to see you.
When you get old and retire,
I'll never get old.
what does that mean?
Well, I'll tell you what it means. If you read, you'll find very few people who think like I think live long enough to get old. And I'll tell you what I mean when I say that. When I say by any means necessary, I mean it with all my heart and my mind and my soul. That a black man should give his life to be free. But he should also be willing to take the life of those who want to take his. It's reciprocal. And when you really think like that, you don't live long. But if freedom doesn't come in your lifetime, it'll come to your children. Well, I never think about being an old man. I never had come across my mind. I can't even see myself old. Huh? No.
Well, how would you like to be remembered by your black brothers around the world, 100 years from now?
Sincere. In whatever I did or do, even if I make mistakes, they were made in sincerity. If I'm wrong in sincerity. I think that the best a person can be is sincere. He can be wrong. If he's sincere, you can put up with him. But you can't put up with a person who's right if he's insincere. Deal with a person's sincerity and respect the person for their sincerity than anything else. Especially when you're living in a world that's so hypocritical.
Well, that's about it.
This is an era of hypocrisy. The time that we live in should rightfully be labeled the era of hypocrisy. When white folks pretend that they want Negroes to be free, and Negroes pretend to white folks that they really believe white folks want them to be free. It's an era of hypocrisy, brother. You fool me and I fool you. This is the game the white man and the Negro play with each other. You pretend that you're my brother, and I pretend that I really believe you're my brother.
Do you think there's going to be more killings and more bombings in Mississippi and Alabama and all of it?
In the north as well as the south. There might be even more in the north because, you see, one dangerous thing King does. I'll tell you the real danger of Martin Luther King. King himself probably is a good man, means well and all that, sincere. But the danger is white people use King. They use King to satisfy their own fears. They blow him up. They give him power beyond his actual influence because they want to believe within themselves that Negroes are nonviolent and patient and long-suffering and forgiving. White people want to believe this so bad because they're so guilty. Well, the danger is when they blow up King and fool themselves into thinking that Negroes are really nonviolent and patient and long-suffering, what they're doing is they got a powder keg in their house. And instead of them trying to do something to defuse the powder keg, they putting a blanket over it and trying to make believe that this is no powder keg, this is a couch that we can lay on and enjoy.
I think that there are white people in the South dislike King with the same intensity that white people in the North dislike you?
I don't believe that. I believe that the white people in the South are praying in the secrecy of their closet that King never died. Because if King stopped teaching that stuff about nonviolence to those Negroes in the South, and there are more Negroes in the South than there are Negroes in the North. In some of those places down there, Negroes outnumbers the white man. And he can outfight the white man anyway. And if that Negro ever gets away from that churchy nonviolence and goes on the warpath, you have hell. You have hell in the South. No, I believe this. No, the King is the best thing that ever happened for him. Down south, up north, out west, and here in the east. He's the best thing that ever happened for white folks. For white folks. But as long as anybody who keeps Negroes nonviolent, that helps white folks. It doesn't help Negroes.
What about the...
And I'm not saying that against King.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing King. Personally, I think he's a good fellow. He's doing the best he can.
What about Negro economic independence? You used to talk about that. Do you still talk about it? Are you still... I remember one phrase you used on a broadcast was that a white man built I think a $500,000 supermarket, and the Negro built a $2 million church.
Yeah, this is true. Right out there where I live. And then the Negroes in the church had the audacity to pick at the white man because he wouldn't give them a job. they put their $2 million in a church, and he put his $200,000 in a supermarket.